Hey guys, it's your favorite mom and dad and your favorite YouTube couple, Sincerely the Carsons. I'm Malik Carson.
And I'm Tyshe Carson.
And today we're going to get into how my wife, Tyshe, found her way back to faith and what got her closer to faith.
Let's get into it.
First question is, I'm going to start hard. You know me, I like to be dramatic.
I ain't go hard on you.
I like to be dramatic. Not only dramatic, but I like to be direct.
Okay.
So let me ask you the first question. What was the day that you realized this is not for me? Like, what was the day that you realized, like, I don't think this is for me. I gotta walk away.
Walk away from what exactly?
The day that you realized. Well, actually, let's start from the origin, right?
Okay.
How did you grow up? Did you grow up in church or did you grow up out of church? How did you grow up?
Yeah, I mentioned in our last video where we were talking about this with you. Make sure y'all go watch that. I grew up in like a fire, brimstone, you on the hell if you sin, very, very, very like gospel, non-denominational Christian church. So growing up there, it was very difficult to question or have any type of curiosity about God, because it was kind of like, if you question God, if you have any doubt, you are essentially blasphemous, you're sinning, and you're evil in your heart.
Yeah.
And so it was really hard to fight to fight your urges to ask why and when and where and all of these things.
Who introduced you to church or your faith originally? Your grandmother.
Yeah.
Okay, your grandmother introduced you. And would you say your family is predominantly faith followers?
Yeah, for sure.
And what religion do they follow?
They consider themselves non-denominational, which I'm not sure if that's in contradiction, but they identify as Christian as well. Mm-hmm. So I think denominational is that they don't go like Baptist, Catholic, whatever. They don't identify like that. They're just like holiness, gospel.
They're just strictly
by the book.
Yeah, just strictly Christ followers.
Right.
Yeah. Okay. And okay, you said your grandmother introduced you into faith, and you were raised predominantly by your grandmother and your mother, correct? For the viewers watching, I know obviously she's my wife.
Yeah. So it was just a lot of times where I stayed with my grandmother like for long periods of time. Mm-hmm. And then I would go with my mother for a period of time, but then I kind of always ended up back with my grandmother. Even if I wasn't living with her permanently, I was just there often.
Yeah. Okay, so you grew up in church, and how was that life for you? Like growing up in church, was it fun for you? Did you like it? Did you learn anything? Did it feel like it was forced, or what would you say your experience as a youth in church was?
I hated it. I hated anything that had to do with going to church. I hated how I had to dress. I hated that it felt cult-like. I hated hearing about the gospel, reading my Bible. I felt it was boring. I felt it was forceful.
Sorry, I don't mean to cut you off, but I want to get to that point before I forget. What do you mean it was cult-like? Like, explain that. Like,
at my church, women didn't wear skirts, no makeup, no nail polish. You can't listen to any type of music. You can't go to the movie theater because it's dark and sinful. You can't go to the bowling alley because they play secular music. It just was like, for me, there is living for God, and then there's living with a fear of hell, right? And I think that a lot of times I grew up with not really seeking the love of God or understanding Him, because I understand hell exists. I understand that is definitely a consequence for our actions, but I also never really understood why Jesus came, why He died for our sins, what that meant. So you just fear like, I could die tomorrow and I'll end up in eternal damnation, Yeah. So it just was like feeling like and then the lack of knowledge or the opposing the curiosity made me feel like you need to be a blind follower, and you never need to question why God does what He does, or you never need to seek answers as to why. You need to just listen to what we're telling you, and if you question it, then you'll be punished, kind of. So it was.
So do you feel it was more like a like a fear tactic?
Yeah, I felt like it was a submission thing, like almost like beating you into shape. You know what I'm saying? Like it was very aggressive. I felt, and I feel like a lot of Black communities take this very hard approach to the gospel. They like predominantly Black churches are very passionate, and I don't find that to be an issue. I just find that like it can be off-putting when you don't really understand where the passion is stemming from and where that aggression or that like you better, like where that is stemming from, you know. So I don't think the intention was bad, I think the execution was bad.
Okay, so well, obviously you identified what you were taught, right? So what would you say was the hardest thing being a youth of understanding the faith?
I think that the hardest thing for me was understanding how God could allow things to happen to me or allow things to be from my elders who I felt were wrong, evil, or just like not acknowledging my suffering. And I felt like the people who are telling me about God or kind of like forcing God on me and telling me this is how to be and this is how you will be, and if not there will be consequences, are the same people who don't acknowledge that things have happened to me, that I've been suffering, that I've had, you know, these issues. It's kind of like we don't talk about that. We don't question God and we don't talk about the bad things. We only come together and are able to have conversation that's comfortable about Jesus Christ in the form of how the church supports it.
So would you say that made you feel like an outsider or an outcast?
Yeah, like the black sheep of my family.
Yeah. Okay, so saying that, then how did it feel being the black sheep or the outcast?
It made me feel like I was identified as something that I'm not. Like growing up being a young Black girl, curvier than most, outspoken in a way, it made me feel like I was identified as like a whore or like an aggressive back talker, like an angry Black woman or an angry Black girl. It made me feel like I was valued for things that I didn't find valuable. Like I didn't care. Of course I was a child, so I didn't care about having a curvy body, or I didn't care about things like my weight or my hair or all those things early on, but people kind of projected those things on me, like you care about this and you do this for attention and you do this, and I never had those thoughts until people told me that's what I was doing. You know,
told you to have those thoughts.
And told me this is opposing your faith, and this is why you need to go get saved, and you need to go get rebaptized, and you need to go down to the altar, because at our church we had this like when I was younger, I don't know if they do it anymore, but when I was younger, it was like altar call, right? So like all the parents, when you act bad and stuff, they send their kids, they take their kids down to the altar. And so the church sees you. It's a different thing than prayer. Like you going down to get saved, and then you go into this room, and then they kind of force you to speak in tongues. So they like, you don't leave that room until we hear you speak in tongues. So you kind of, as a kid, you act like you speaking in tongues so you can get out, you know? So it was just a very like demanding, difficult situation to navigate, I think, for an immature young mind. You know?
Okay, so what would you say that at that time as a child that you enjoyed? Like, what did you enjoy at that time as a child, you know, where you were like, I don't like these things over here, because you said you didn't enjoy church, right?
Right.
So what would you say at that time and period of your life that you did enjoy, that you find, you know, valuable at that point in period in time? You know,
we have this conversation a lot. I don't remember having much of a childhood. I don't remember finding joy in cartoons or in social life. Like sometimes like my stepdad would ask me, you just sitting here, you 14, 15, like you don't have friends or nothing, you know. And it was periods of time where I enjoyed football games and, you know, things like that, but that wasn't like an interest of mine. I don't remember actually when I was younger having any interest other than like kind of like sitting in my room being by myself watching like reality TV, trash TV, like just kind of bedridden a lot.
So I mean, the way it sounds to me, your joy was being isolated.
Being by myself, like I had friends, but I kind of felt like when I was around my friends, I didn't really fit in with them. They liked me because of things I didn't like about myself. Like, I didn't like being curvy. I didn't like male attention younger, right? Like, I grew to like it. I grew to like male attention. I grew to like drinking. I grew to like having fun and stuff like that. You know what I'm saying? But when I was younger, 14, 15, 16, I didn't like being curvy or male attention and stuff. But I feel like women hung out with me because I attracted that type of attention. So I kind of would rather be by myself.
Yeah. So do you feel like, you know, being in church and kind of being forced and being into that, what you at the time you thought was like cult like, do you think that pushed you into isolation, or do you feel it was something else?
I think it was a combination of multiple things. I think that growing up with an abusive parent or an abusive where my mother was in an abusive relationship, I think growing up like that pushed me to never want to experience that. And so boys were kind of like they were a thing, of course. Like, I like boys, but it was kind of like
on the back burner.
Because it was kind of like a fear of not wanting that. So and don't get me wrong, I was talking to boys. I had a boyfriend pretty early on. But even then, it was kind of like I just wanted to seclude myself with one person and like attach myself to this person. It was just me and my boyfriend, and I never wanted to, like how women nowadays say male-centered. I was that from very young, because it was like my mom kind of identified herself with her husband, and so I wanted to find somebody to identify with, but I didn't want to have like friends or nothing like to like influence my relationship. I just wanted to be with my boyfriend. And so the church was, and the reason I say boys were kind of on the back burner was because along with liking this boy, being with this boy, having a boyfriend, right? It was like, this is wrong. You know what I'm saying? Like, you're not supposed to have a boyfriend, you're not supposed to be listening. I had a lot of conviction. So it's like, it's right to like boys, but not to a certain extent. It was like a dialogue playing in my head all the time. So even to my boyfriend, sometimes I was kind of like isolated, because I started to feel guilt and wanting to retreat from him. But then when I felt lonely, I was like, I need to call my boyfriend to be with my boyfriend. I like that.
So what age do you remember, or do you say that you kind of said, you know, I'm gonna go my own way and figure it out myself? Like, kind of when you stepped away from the church, when you were old enough to not, you know, growing up, all of us, if we grew up in churches, you know, our parents made us go, you know, or our grandparents made us go. So at what age did you start to say, like, nope, I can make my own choices, I'm not going? Like, do you remember what age you were when you were like, I'm not doing this?
Yeah, I was in college. I think I was 20.
Oh, so you were probably older than most people would experience.
Yeah. I was like a blind believer for a really long time, like never questioned. Like I held on to that for a long time. And then I was 20, and then some things came up about my childhood with like my parents and my grandmother and all these things, like, and it was really distraught for me to like have these things come to light. And so I sought out comfort within like the adult figures in my life, and I didn't receive that. So when I didn't receive that, I think I started to be like, something is wrong here. You know what I'm saying? Because I was just kind of like, if anything bad happened to, at this time I didn't have children, but if anything, I was thinking this even before I had children, if anything ever happened to my kids or whatever, but immediately, especially because I believe in God, it would be like, let's set the world on fire, you know? Not because I know vengeance is not yours, but that's just the love I would have for my children. So I think that when I didn't receive that, especially like, I'm not beating my mom over the head because she made her mistakes, but my dad was absent, like completely absent. So between those two, I was just kind of like, something is not right here, you know? And I started to question a lot of things and try to figure out what I identify with, and for a long time I identify with God doesn't exist.
Okay. So what would you say that was your first question? Like, what was your first question of, you know, doubt or non-belief? Why
does God allow things to happen to me that when I'm a good person?
Okay. And do you feel that you found that answer?
Yeah, I feel like I wasn't as good of a person as I thought I was, but also I didn't deserve the things.
What do you mean by that? You weren't as good as a person as you thought you were?
I was an eternal victim for a long time. Like, I used my victimhood. Things happened to me as a child or as a young adult, But then instead of addressing those things, healing from those things, seeking God to help find refuge within him, you know, instead of doing that, I use it as an excuse for bad behavior up into my 20s, right?
Yeah.
So when I didn't have relationships, or when my relationships with my family weren't good and all these things, I was like, oh, it's because of you. And I had anger, like really, really, really bad anger within myself. So within my youth, I was just kind of like an angry person, an aggressive person, a person who wanted validation but didn't want to act like I needed validation. It was a very mixed, confused time for me.
Yeah, so you, like, I get what you're saying. You were more of in a sense of like, you wanted validation, but you didn't want nobody to tell you anything about it.
Exactly.
Okay,
exactly.
I understand that.
Yeah.
Okay, so then that leads to my next question then. So would you say that at that period of time when you were in college, when you first were like, you know what, I'm stepping away, would you couldn't have considered yourself atheist?
Yeah.
Yeah? Yeah. What did it feel like, you know, at that period of time being, you know, atheist?
It felt free.
Yeah.
It felt like I didn't have to answer to nobody. It felt like there was no consequences for my actions, and it felt like I finally took control of what I think.
Yeah.
And I wasn't being brainwashed, or I wasn't being ridiculed, or I wasn't being judged. It was kind of like, even if like my mom or my grandma and stuff would be like, you need to get your life right. And I'd be like, girl, please. You know what I'm saying? Like, you don't even know what you're talking about. Yeah. So it was freeing for me.
Yeah. Okay. So, okay. Speaking to that, brainwashing, do you feel like when you became atheist, do you feel like, you know, you were brainwashed in that sense, or was it not as brainwashing because it was more of your choice this time?
It was still brainwashing, just almost like reverse.
Yeah.
Like as far left as I was in religion prior to, is as far right as I went with atheism. Like, there was no meaning, there was just a black hole, it was depressing.
Yeah.
It was depressing because it was just like, none of this matters. You know that dark time that teenagers go through where it's like, none of this matters, and what is the purpose of life, and I just don't want to be here anymore.
Yeah.
That's a dark place.
Yeah.
You know, people don't talk about that enough, but I think that a lot of young people go through this like crisis within themselves of like, what does it all mean? And I went through that for a long time, not really understanding that it's my job to seek answers for myself versus I'm mad at everybody who told me lies.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah. Okay.
I lacked a lot of accountability.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So during that process when you were in atheism, what did you like truly believe? You know, since you stepped away from faith, you know, what were your beliefs? Like, go further into depth of what atheism meant to you at that period in your life.
It meant F the police. Like, it meant don't nobody tell me nothing. I run me. And if you got a problem with me, we can fight about it.
Yeah,
like, not even, like, I'm saying metaphorically, but seriously.
Yeah,
like, if you have something to say to me, I don't answer to nobody.
Yeah.
That's what it meant. Like, atheism for me was, I don't answer to nobody. I don't have any regrets in my life. I don't have any constructive criticism, no judgment. Don't tell me nothing. Don't try to put me on the right path. Leave me alone, because you're stupid. Honestly, like, I feel like everybody around me is dumb, and I'm the only intelligent one around. So it gave me a lot of arrogance, a lot of self-righteousness, a God complex. Like, I felt like, if you want to know something, you can come to me and ask me, and I'll guide you in the right direction because I know about life. But if you wanted to do the same in return, I'm so closed off. See no evil, fear no evil, hear no evil. Like, that's how I was. Like, you are an evil person if you're trying to tell me that my self-guidance is wrong.
Yeah. So would you say that you felt like the judge and the jury?
I was the judge, the jury, and the executioner. Like, I would cut you out of my life and act like you're dead. I would act like I never knew you.
That's not funny. That's not funny.
I would. Like, I would cancel, like how we have cancel culture.
Yeah.
That's who I was after 20 years old. Like, you're canceled, you're canceled, you're canceled. Like, you want to tell me I love you and I want to pray for you. Canceled.
Yeah.
Please do not come over here with that, because now you're trying to I was very opposed to conviction.
Yeah.
Don't try to make me feel bad. Don't try to make me feel judged. Don't try to misunderstand me and try to twist my words to make it into something it's not. That's how I felt people. I was on the defense all the time.
Yeah. And okay, do you think I'm gonna go a little left here, because I kind of feel like they go together, which is what makes a lot of people go to the extreme, right? Because you said you went extreme right? So do you think at that period of time, not only were you deep in atheism, right, but do you think, now looking back at it, do you think you found a form of feminist thoughts as well?
Yeah, of course.
Yeah.
I think those go hand in hand.
Yeah, that's the reason I was asking, because what I'm hearing, I can kind of hear it, so that I wanted to ask you that.
Yeah, it was sexual liberation. It was no kids. I need to do this on my own. I don't believe in marriage. I don't want anybody to try to force me into a box where I have to be in a role.
Yeah.
I want to experience the world as I wanted to experience the world on my own accord. And I don't think that necessarily was bad. I don't think that it was bad that I wanted to experience the world through my own eyes, not through something somebody told me. I think the bad thing was I wanted to go against every beautiful thing God created for me, to benefit me, to help me progress, to grow, to mature, to seek Him, and to get the graces, the abundance, and everything that He had for my life.
Yeah.
I think I thought that I was opposing oppression, and I thought that I was opposing people stepping on me and being a doormat. I thought that's what I was opposing, but in actuality, the anger was pushing away all the good things that God had for me. Yeah.
Okay. So.
And just to say, you said deep in atheism. I really wasn't, because I really didn't have an understanding of what atheism was.
Yeah.
I never did research about atheism. No,
yeah.
I never did. Same way, I never questioned Christianity.
Yeah.
I just kind of did it. I never did research or question atheism.
Which is why you said you did it blindly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I just was like, I don't believe in nothing. It was so surface level and so much ignorance behind it that's why there was anger. Because I believe that there are some atheist believers who deep dive.
Yeah.
And they have so many questions that they're in this spiral. You know what I'm saying? That wasn't me.
Yeah.
I didn't have all these questions and I was so profound. No, it was.
Yeah. You just did it to go rogue.
I was just rebellious. Yeah.
I was
just like, if I'm not Christian, I'm nothing.
Yeah.
You know?
Okay, that makes sense. And okay, so combining the two, a little bit of atheism, a little bit of feminism, do you think that was, appropriate for that time period of your life? And the reason I asked that is because I wanted, to the people watching, what would you say to the people who are like in that space now, who are like, I think this is appropriate, not only do I not believe, but I believe that women should have all the power, or whatever the case may be. What would you say to those women? Because you've been in that space before, and now you're not in that space anymore. So what would you tell them?
I think that women who fear men, because I think that that's a big root of it. I think that we mask sometimes our fear of men based off our history in the past. We mask that as some type of liberation or some type of empowerment for women. But I don't think that you can be empowered by diminishing the role or stepping or opposing going to war with another being that God has created for good. So I think that when we have these, the question was, did it serve me, or was it appropriate for that time period? No, I don't think it's ever appropriate for a woman to oppose something that God created for her benefit, for her empowerment. The crazy thing is, the contradiction from what I believed in a feminist mindset is that men are here to diminish us and step on us and make us submissive and to serve and be a slave. And I kind of viewed it that way until I realized that it's just the men that I had been around in my life up until that point. Because when I got around men that actually were doing the calling of God, what He calls them to be, I seen that there was nothing further from the truth. I seen that a man who loves you and who genuinely has an understanding. That's why God says, seek a man that seeks after his heart, after what he wants. You know, that's why you want a God-fearing man, not because it's a cliche or something good to say, something fun and lighthearted. It's not lighthearted. You really need to have a prerequisite for marriage as a man who believes in God, because a man who believes in God and understands what God's will is for him in this life is a man who can genuinely help you experience love and fulfillment. And when I experienced that, it really helped me to put away the ways of the feminist mindset.
Yeah.
You know, that it helped me to put the thought process of feminism away because I wasn't being degraded.
What helped you put the thought of feminism away?
When I experienced real men.
Okay.
When I experienced a real man.
Yeah.
When I experienced you. When I experienced, and it was you being able to show me. So my grandfather loved my grandmother unconditionally, no matter their faith or the belief system. And of course it was God. I won't take that away from them, but no matter whatever they practice, I seen love. They were married for 45 years. I seen love. I never seen him raise his voice. I never seen him put his hands on her. I never seen him and the covenant of their marriage, the things that they understand, I wouldn't understand as a child, but I do understand that what I seen and perceived was love. Yeah. But I was like, that's 1 in a million. Nobody else gets that, you know? And then I met you and I said, somebody, I get that. You know what I'm saying? Like I get to experience what my grandmother had, which is a man who's willing to, I told you I'm not about to get emotional every time I get on this camera. I'm tired of this. But I've experienced a man who's willing to like conquer anything to make me happy and give me a world, whatever it is in this world that I want. A man who's willing to work so hard to get that for me. You know, like it's like almost when women say men they don't want you to work because they want you to stay at home and be in this oppressive role. All I see is a man who's saying, I don't want you to lift a finger. You know what I'm saying? I want you to sit and relax and enjoy your children and live a life of softness and happiness and joy, and find joy within your rest. You know what I'm saying? Find joy within, you gave me children, now rest, and rest within raising your children, and rest. Not saying that raising children is not a job, but enjoy that job. Don't spread yourself thin trying to do my job. And I always was like, I need to help you. You know what I'm saying? Do you need help? Do you need me to come? And it's like, no, like, I just don't. What my experience with you is, I don't want you to worry about what God has called me to do. And that right there showed me that when God created man and woman, he created us perfectly and made our roles, and I'm getting goosebumps because he made our roles so perfect to coexist. And I think that what I'll say to women is that when you find yourself in these places where you feel like you're battling a man, or you're battling your role within a relationship and stuff, just take a second to understand that when God created us, he didn't create these roles for no reason. You know, so I'm not saying you can't work. I'm not saying that if it's not necessary, you shouldn't help your husband. I'm not saying that because if Malik ever needed it, I'm going out the door to go help, because that's what God called me to do, to help my husband. But if your husband says stay home and take care of the children, it's not because he wants to, majority of the time, it's not because he wants to oppress you or to step on you or to make you a doormat. It's more along the lines of, he wants his children to be safe within the home of the woman the home that he's created for his family. But secondly, it's so that you don't have to go conquer the world. And for so long, I thought that I had to conquer the world, and I thought that I had to battle everybody, and I had to be this strong person because I had to defend myself. And I did have to defend myself most of my life. And then when I met you and you said, I'll defend you where you don't have to. Okay,
what would you say was your turning point? You know, was it in college or after college, your turning point where you're like, maybe I was wrong, or maybe I'm dead wrong? Like, what was your turning point that brought you back to faith?
So, when we had the conversation yesterday, I talked to you and I heard you talk about the epiphany and like how it kind of just hit you. And I have something similar. It came to me in a dream, right? So when I got pregnant with Journey, God came to me in a dream.
When we got pregnant with Journey,
I was pregnant. I was going pregnant. But when I got pregnant, I was I was asleep, and I was really debating on keeping it, not keeping it, because I was still in a very immature, selfish phase of my life.
Yeah.
And I talked to my grandmother the next morning, and she was telling me about like taking responsibility for your accepting the consequences that come with your actions.
Yeah. Okay.
And so in that dream, I remember it being, I was in a blue room, a powder blue room, and there was like a pink neon sign on the wall. It was my mama screaming at me like, "You need to tell him! You need to tell him!" You know, it really freaked me out. You know, but it really, I told God, like, if you want me to keep this, and at the time I didn't see it as a bad thing. Now I don't bargain with God like that, you know, but at the time I was like, if I'm gonna keep my child, I need you to help me, because I'm not gonna be able to do this. I'm not gonna be able to do this on my own. And I guess at that point it was like, if you exist, you gonna need to like make this work. And I feel like at the time, like now reflecting on it, it was a very arrogant thing, but I think God knew my heart and my position in it. And I don't think that, I never felt like God was like upset with me for my approach at the time, because he judges you for your intellect level at that time, you know, the knowledge level at that time. So
maybe he saw it as he was coming to save you, because like you said, he knew your heart. So maybe he was coming to save you because he knew, even though you were saying it arrogantly, right, you were saying it from a place of like crying out. But you didn't, at the time, you didn't realize you were crying out. You were just, like you said, being arrogant, you know, like, hey, if this is gonna work, you need to do this for me, right? But in your heart, he knew she's asking for help.
Yeah, because that's why I said I didn't really deep dive into atheism, because if I did, I think that I would have got the abortion, because there was no repercussion for that. There was, I mean, yeah, a life is a life, you know what I'm saying? But at the time, I didn't really consider that, so, or I didn't understand how ingrained Christianity was in me until I got away from it. You know, so when I got pregnant, and then God really started to move things in my life and reveal himself to me, like, it wasn't just external things. It was like so much peace that he gave me within at such a tumultuous time in my life, a time of uncertainty, a time of anxiety, a time of fear. I always felt like he had his hand on me and wrapped his hand around us, you know, to help us to get to where we are today. And I think that looking at us today, I can never deny God, because seeing us sitting here at this table is still surreal to me, of how much God, how much grace, mercy, and love God has instilled and poured upon both of us.
Okay. So what was your transition phase like when you finally, you know, opened back up and say, okay, I need to dive back in? What would you say helped you transition, you know, feel comfortable again and start, you know, being comfortable on your own, you know, because you grew up Christian, you went away and then you came back? Like, what made you sit down, or what brought you back to sit down and say, okay, I'm gonna start going into this? Like, what was your first question or your first research that you did to say, okay, I'm coming back and now I need to figure this out?
So it wasn't really, I'll just hone into what I think you're asking me, the transition, right? What I'll say is, the first thing that I'm not a real research person. It's not because I don't need evidence. It's because I'm a person who feels a lot, you know. So if you're
a heartfelt person.
So like analytics, research, data matters to me, because I like to know factual information, especially being married to you. The database over here. But me as a person, I am like, what does it feel like? Because God has given me a heart that feels conviction, that feels what's right, that feels what's wrong. Not that I'm always like a perfect judge of everything, but just he gives me that direction, and that's why I feel favored within him, because he doesn't have to.
Yeah.
You know, he can let me feel lost and lack clarity. So the one of the first things that I needed to do when I transitioned into walking with Christ again was I had to stop and walking with Christ, but also being a mother and being a wife and really embracing those roles. I had to stop partying, stop drinking, stop talking crazy, you know, like manage my anger, find emotional intelligence, give myself self-assurance, establish confidence within myself, self-love.
Yeah.
All of these things we think are glamorous traits, and we think that are, like, as women, we sometimes think that these are things that we get because we that girl, or we get because we fine, or we get because of people we're associated with,
or because it brings attention.
Yeah, all of these things, but we don't understand that these are true gifts from God. I stick out like a sore thumb a lot, and I think that was hurtful to me for such a long time, and now I embrace not being like anybody else, and I embrace not being able to cultivate connections very quickly and instantaneously, because I am a person who has to analyze people, and people have to analyze me and understand if we are going to be able to be serving within each other's path.
Yeah.
And if we're not, that's okay.
Yeah.
And at first I used to feel like, why can't I be friends with this person, or why can't I have a connection with this person, or what do I need to do to be accepted by this person? And when God gave me self-assurance and confidence and his love, that's the only thing I really need, you know? And so I didn't seek so much validation from the world and so much validation from other people, and even validation within my relationship. At first it was like, what do you think? What do you think? What do you think? And within my marriage, I found the sacredness of asking, what do you want? You know, and caring about that versus caring about people's perception of us.
Yeah.
You know, everybody is perceived. And I don't think that that's always a thing that we like to acknowledge. Like, I don't want to be perceived a certain way. And it's like, you're going to be perceived. And the joy in life is getting to a place where you don't care how people perceive you, because you know yourself and you know the God you serve, and you can feel your integrity and your character and the joy you have for being able to establish that. Because coming from a place of depression, darkness, the unknown, confusion, to a place of clarity, light, and joy, I wouldn't give that back for the world.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah. Okay.
I hope that answers what you asked.
Yeah, I get it 100%. So, if you could give the people watching any, advice or any recommendations, because, there could be people watching, whether they're male or female, watching that experience the same thing you experience. What's something that not only would you tell your younger self, but also tell people who are going through that, or people who are younger than you that are going through that?
I would tell you that joy is in suffering. I would tell you that running from obstacles, running from pain, running from acknowledgement, running from your past, you'll run for the rest of your life. I'll tell you that the moment you sit with God, or actually the moment you engulf yourself in his warm embrace and cry physically, internally, once you let out that pain and give it to him and allow him to use it as a tool for you to grow and become the person that lives in his purpose, I think you find fulfillment. So for anyone watching that believes that you don't have a purpose, or that it's not for you, it's not designed for you, the system is against you, or no one is rooting for you, or nobody has your best interest, know that there's someone who does, and his word and his law and what he has destined for you trumps everything that you can see, everything that you feel, and whatever you're premeditating or what you believe for your future, what that looks like for you. So I think that giving yourself the joy of the unknown and allowing your future to be in the hands of your creator is something that made me like relieve so much anxiety off my shoulders.
Yeah.
You know, it relieved me of this burden to have it all figured out and to have my plan exceed what God's will is, you know?
Yeah.
And it's working out really good. It's working out very well for me when I finally released this controlling habit I had to have life figured out. You don't have to have life figured out. You don't have to have anything figured out as long as you have one thing figured out.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah. Yeah, and I would say this closing out is it's okay to question, right? Mm-hmm. But don't question in arrogance. The reason that that's important is because if you question in arrogance, you're not going to get an answer. But it's okay to question because when you question, you're going to get the answer back in love. But when you question in arrogance, you're not going to get a response, or you're going to get a response that's not of God. And that's what we don't want. So we always have to have open hearts and open minds to any and everyone we come across. So that's why respect matters. That's why relationships matter, whether it's friendships or intimacy. Yes. We have to understand that we have to put the arrogance behind us because we both experienced, you know, going away from faith and getting back to faith, and all of that was rooted out of arrogance, you know, within self. So I would tell anyone watching, just put behind that arrogance and seek people who are like-minded or people who are, you know, steps above you. And that's okay. There's always going to be someone steps above you, you know, and seek them and ask them how you can get to the next step, you know, because the people who are above you can help you get to the next level, and then you can help people who are below you get to the next level, because then there'll be someone searching for you to help them get to the next level. And it's a ladder effect, you know. So that's all I would say. But thank you guys for tuning in again. Like, comment, and subscribe. Sincerely, the Carsons.
We'll see you guys in the next one. Look at you. Like, share, and subscribe. Look at you.